Hi everyone. Okay, I'm checking the clock. It's 1:41, so a little bit late on the weekly 1:30 Instagram live, but that's life. That happens. And sometimes kids are home and you're doing COVID testing and all of the other kinds of things that are going on. So thank you so much for being here and for joining. And now I'm going to look for my friend Sasha here and have Sasha join. So just give me one quick sec. Hi, Tara. I see Tara's on here. Hopefully you guys caught us on Instagram Live. Oh, it's so nice to see people joining in. All right, here we go. And here, there he is. Hello.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me okay? Can you
I
see me
can.
okay?
Yes, I can hear you. I can see you. Everything is a-okay.
Amazing.
Good. Okay, this is Sasha's first Instagram live and my third. So, veteran over here, but hopefully everything is technically working as it should. So thank you so much, Sasha, for being here. I'm so happy to talk to you again.
Oh my goodness, it's absolutely my pleasure. Yes, this is my first Instagram Live, and I see one of my friends has joined to watch, so that's fantastic. But Maren, it's absolutely my pleasure to be here with you today. It was great chatting with you earlier in the week, and I'm thrilled to be here with your followers.
That's amazing. Thank you. Well, before we launch in and tell everybody who you are and why you're here, I just want to take a quick second. Obviously, it's Remembrance Day today, so I just want to acknowledge that before putting any content out. I want to take a second to acknowledge that and, pay respects publicly, also privately as well, and just share that. It just feels like the right thing to do, before talking about anything else important, but also relevant. So just to everybody celebrating Remembrance Day, I hope you've taken the moments and, found the peace that you need to find on such a special and impactful day. So, and with that, so here's Sasha. So Sasha, why don't you tell everybody what your title is at the Daily Bread Food Bank, and we'll share a little bit about how we've connected and started to have this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you, Maren, for sort of taking a moment to pause and acknowledge and reflect on the important day that it is today with Remembrance Day. So thank you for that. So I'm Sasha Mikna. I am the Senior Manager of Community Partnerships and Events at Daily Bread Food Bank. So in my role at Daily Bread, I have the privilege of getting to work with all kinds of different individuals, groups, schools, companies, faith groups, etc., who are organizing their own food drives and or fundraising campaigns to support Daily Bread. So get to meet all kinds of incredible, passionate, motivated individuals and groups who really care a lot about food security and want to do something to help Daily Bread. So we get to work with them and make sure that they have a fun, meaningful, successful experience.
That's awesome. That's so great. And that's how we connected. Obviously, I had the pleasure of participating in a fantastic food drive in my neighborhood, in my community, around Thanksgiving, where different streets all sort of rallied together with a leader on the street to encourage donations. And we all ended up dropping off in a centralized location at a centralized time and just saw an incredible amount of support from the neighborhood, from the community. It's amazing to see your whole trunk full on its own, and then when you see trunk after trunk after trunk after trunk after trunk as you're pulling up and dropping off, just the domino effects and seeing everything come together was really special. So that's how I connected personally with Daily Bread, as what was so special for me was how incredibly easy you guys made it to encourage. And that's an important piece because, my products at My Kindness Calendar, they're all about making it easy to do the things that most of us want to be doing. We want to be having these conversations, but sometimes we're not sure how, or we don't have the time to do it. So it's just an easy kind of plug and play way to make that a priority. And what I loved about your food drive, it was just so simple, and everybody wants to volunteer and give back, but finding the time and prioritizing that amongst the list falls to the bottom people. So you guys really kind of found a special magic sauce to get people involved. I wanted to share that forward.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I'll just add a couple quick things if you don't mind. Your neighbors combined just in your local neighborhood to collect more than 17,000 pounds of food, which is just astonishing. It was more than two trucks full. So we had to take multiple trips back to Daily Bread with our 26-foot truck to bring all of the food donations back from that hub location. So it was a tremendous response from your community. During a time of year, it was just this past Thanksgiving, during a time of year when giving back is of course top of mind. Getting together with family is top of mind, and especially now when it's a little bit easier to do those types of things. So we're so glad that we were able to provide an opportunity for your community and other members across the city to be able to take part in an activity that was meaningful and was able to happen in still sort of a safe and thoughtful way, given the circumstances that we're still in. So kudos to you, and happy to hear that feedback.
Yeah, thanks. I think there's another one coming soon. So everybody's motivated, which is great. So obviously, you just mentioned, in a safe and a safe way, given the circumstances. The circumstances, obviously, COVID. So why don't you help to educate us a little bit about what it has meant for the Dominion Food Project, the Daily Bread here in Toronto, our food.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, great segue. Food bank usage was already climbing prior to the pandemic. We were seeing about a 5% increase in usage year over year prior to COVID-19. And when COVID did hit our city in March of 2020, really what it did was it exacerbated existing issues and sort of underlying systemic inequalities that were already out there. And in short order, as we saw sort of unemployment and underemployment soaring, there was a quick, sharp increase in visits to food banks within Daily Bread's network across the city. We have a member network of about 125 plus member agencies and more than 180 food programs across the city. So we saw a huge uptick right away in visits to the food banks across our network, particularly new clients who are accessing food banks for the first time. A really jarring stat was at the height of the first wave, we saw a 200% increase in new clients visiting food banks across Daily Bread's network. So just a really real eye opener there. And at the same time, in terms of sort of our existing clients, many of whom rely on fixed incomes like social assistance or pensions, Ontario Works, things like that, we're struggling even more to make ends meet as we saw sort of inflation slowly increasing and access to community programs and supports and services declining as well as we saw closures. So big uptick right away. And I talked about how, things are getting maybe a little bit more back to normal now, but that's the case for many people in our city. But for the tens of thousands of people who are living in poverty, the reality is different, right? The numbers aren't slowing down right now. So far in 2021, we're seeing an average of about 110,000 client visits per month to food banks across our network, which is more than a 50% increase over pre-pandemic numbers. We were averaging about, I think, 68,000 or so before COVID. And so they're not slowing down. This past June, we hit a pretty grim milestone. We had 124,000 visits in one single month in June, which was the sort of busiest month that we'd ever seen in Daily Bread's history. And if current rates continue, we're going to see probably upwards, if not more than 1.4 million visits to food banks across Toronto. So things are not slowing down.
Wow. And I mean, that is not surprising. It's also, upsetting and it's concerning for sure. And obviously that's in Toronto, but this is the trend that's happening across the country, across America. Everybody's seeing the same type of use. I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So as you're seeing the need grow so much, are you seeing a proportionate increase in people wanting to participate or people wanting, what's that looking? How are you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We are very proud to have been able to provide uninterrupted service throughout the entirety of the pandemic. There were a lot of changes and pivots that we had to make along the way to ensure that we were able to do so in a safe way. So that's one point of real pride for Daily Bread to ensure that the people who are accessing food banks were able to continue to do so. And we have been seeing, support from the community, from whether it's individuals or corporations or community groups, and whether it's through philanthropic donations or fundraising campaigns or food drives or large scale food donations from industry partners or farms. We have been able to keep up with the increased demand. Um, Over this past year, Daily Bread's sort of output in terms of food distributed was close to 17 million pounds. Absolutely staggering number, more than 30% increase over the prior year. So huge increase in output. That's been made possible thanks to the support of our community partners. And it's too bad that we're in a situation where we need extra people to step up and raise their hand and take part in these activities to make sure that people's right to food is realized. But at the same time, we're so grateful that people have done that.
Right. Well, that's amazing. And what I always like to talk about, because the work that I like to do is all about encouraging and inspiring kids to make a difference and participate. So when it comes to such a huge issue, food insecurity and poverty and the right to food and all these kids and or taking the brought it to the fire station or protested. But the why behind that and really understanding the core issues, why we're doing, why that's important. If you were to touch on that in a friendly way,
Yeah,
to talk about that, or what language you want to see used, and topics would you want to see discussed when we're trying to broach that subject with kids, maybe the first time.
yeah. That's a big one to unpack, and I mean, um, you know, hunger and food insecurity. Hunger itself is easy to understand. It's a simple concept, but where it gets obviously more complex is the causes behind it, the stemming from poverty and the underlying again systemic inequalities and inequities that cause that poverty. That's a tougher one to crack, but really, um, simply put, and I'm a parent myself. I have two kids, ages 3 and 5. So. Um, I'll touch on sort of just what food insecurity is, to help maybe parents or kids understand what that means,
Mhm.
because we talk about that a lot. And really, just simply put, it's the inability to consistently acquire or consume a sufficient quantity of good, healthy, and culturally appropriate food. So sort of that's the baseline to help understand what food insecurity means. Um, 1 in 5 people in Toronto is are food insecure, and across the country, that's like 4.4 million Canadians, 1.2 million kids.
Wow.
Um, so think about think about that 1.2 million kids who are food insecure. Um, so starting from that point, like kids understand what it feels like to be hungry. They know that feeling. They understand how it feels to not get the things that they want or not have the things that they want or that they think they need. And at the same time, they understand the importance of sharing, the importance of helping others, the importance of looking out for one another. And I think that's a really sort of easy concept to grasp. And food itself is just it's one of our basest needs, right? And at Daily Bread, we really truly believe that food is a human right, a basic human right, and that all the work that we do is really to ensure that everyone's right to food can be realized. So, when I first started working at Daily Bread, it was kind of easy for my 5-year-old to understand what it was that I do. Um, he understands that my job at Daily Bread is to help make sure that everyone has enough food to eat. Everyone can access the fresh, nutritious, culturally appropriate food that they need in order to live and thrive and be their best, healthiest selves. So just really distilling it down to sort of those simplest concepts, starting with some of the sort of definitions of food insecurity and that sort of thing is sort of my approach.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. And I'm not sure if you saw our live from last week, but I was with a friend and an expert, Farah Gracho, who does a lot of work with kids in terms of literacy and using books to help to explain some important concepts. So after the live, I'll link to a few books that also, when having conversations with people, be able to like reference some of these concepts through age appropriate like kids literature and that kind of thing. So a few titles come to mind that I'll put.
Awesome.
Okay, so we know we want to help. So how can we help? What is most helpful for you guys? Pardon me while I grab my headphones because speaking of kids, mine are sick, and I think everyone might be able to hear them in a moment or two.
Amazing. I feel you there. All good. Yeah. So how can you help? There's lots of ways to help. I mean, most notably, the biggest sort of most straightforward ways to help are either organizing a food drive or organizing a fundraiser on behalf of Daily Bread. Um, for older kids, there are other opportunities once they get to certain ages, to volunteer, either sort of in the community or on site at Daily Bread once sort of circumstances allow,
Yeah.
or even more sort of more advanced things like advocating for systemic change by doing things like writing letters to government representatives and things of that nature, signing petitions, etc. But really for the younger kids, organizing a food drive is the best option. Um, it's just really visceral, really tangible, easy to understand, and it's flexible as well. It can be done with classmates or with neighbors or a sports team or club or a faith group or just with friends and family. So really, it can take on any kind of shape or size and or scale. Um, and we provide tools and resources and things like that to make sure that kids can do it successfully and have fun along the way.
Yeah, you have fantastic resources. We obviously have our printable that we put out. That's 6 easy steps to go through. That's very much inspired by what you guys do in Toronto, but hopefully so people outside they can access it as well. So again, we'll link to your amazing bread and one that's created that will hopefully help you, especially at the holidays. People often volunteer as a was already a challenge before COVID because really, sometimes having little people volunteer is not the most helpful. Well, organization can say it in a systematic way. So, there's the parents who are passionate about getting their kids involved, and then there's the organization who really need like quality support and volunteer hours and not to be like rallying, children around a certain task. So there's a bit of conflict there. So things that parents can organize on their own that still tackle those exact same topics and give the same amount of exposure, but sort of in a family-led type of way are so fantastic at getting it. So what tips would you give us if we want to do a food drive at the holidays or maybe after the holidays because the need is there year round and the giving is often increased as special care because it's operating in this constant need throughout the year. Really, anytime is a good year to start for it, I would imagine. So, what are your fun and how to make it best?
Yeah, absolutely. And so in terms of timing, you know, during periods like this, Thanksgiving, heading into the holiday season, um, you know, food is on people's mind. We have family get-togethers, things of that nature, celebrations. And also people are sort of in the giving spirit. So we certainly see a big increase in activity around this time in terms of donations and fundraising and food drives. And our need is great during this time, and we're so grateful for the increased support from the community. But to your point, the need doesn't stop on a seasonal basis, right? There are people throughout the year accessing food banks and other food programs across the city, and so if somebody wants to raise their hand to organize a drive, sort of at a time that's maybe not one of those obvious times throughout the year, it's always greatly appreciated. But really, any time that somebody raises their hand and steps up and organizes something on our behalf, we're so grateful. And some tips that I would provide, I would say definitely check to see what kind of resources are available from the food bank or the organization that you're supporting. I mentioned that Daily Bread has a number of resources, and I can share a bit about what those are in a second. And Marin, you have a really awesome shareable that you've put together that can be used sort of by anybody, regardless of where they're located, which is fantastic. But really checking to see what kind of tools and resources are available, making sure to understand sort of what, if you're doing a food drive, what types of foods to collect, right? Daily Bread has a list of most needed food items that we provide to our food drive organizers, just to help give them a little bit of direction when they're either collecting food either from their pantry or doing grocery shopping, or instructing neighbors or friends or classmates or whatever the case may be to make donations. So that's a really helpful resource. And make it fun as well. Figure out how to make it fun. The neighborhood food drive, like you said, is a really great family activity. You can sort of do it at your own pace. We also have uh, paper bags that we can provide to organizers in Toronto who are doing food drives, so they can sort of drop paper bags off to their neighbors' doorsteps with a sort of a customized flyer to provide those instructions, and then the neighbor can fill up the bag with food and leave it on the doorstep for pickup at a later date. So again, sort of safe, contactless way to do it. So tips overall, just see what's available to help you, explore the organization's site and their resources so you can understand sort of what's available and how you can best support.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I mean, like, that's genius. The paper bags and having everything like right there. And someone doesn't even have to go find the
Yeah.
plug and play. It's so easy. And I did this with my kids, and we would be like having races up the stairs. Because in Toronto, there's semis, right? So it's like we'd start together, and each one would take a side, drop the bag, come back, have races. It was so much fun. And just to share one more little story, um, at the end of our drive, so went up and down our street, and obviously we know a lot of our neighbors, but not everybody because we went quite far afield. One house that has always been known for decorations. It has this really awesome Halloween decoration. Like, this is how we identify these people who we don't know. And on the day of the food drive, I went to collect their bag, and a bag wasn't there. They had literally left like skids of cans, like 24 cans, in like a cardboard when you order or when you get the whole thing. Like, and now forever after, they're not going to be the Halloween decoration. They're going to be the like so many cans at the food drive house. It was so amazing to see, like, gone to Costco and loaded up on whatever it was, spaghetti sauce or stew or something like this. It was so incredibly generous, and it was like really impactful for me to see and for my kids to see, and everything was really memorable. So a lot of special, memories and discussions, and good that drive. So those are great tips. I hope they're helpful, and I hope lots of people make use of your incredible resources. Sorry, like doing double duty here. I'm listening. Uh, they really chance to take a peek and for their family. And so before we tie up, is there anything else that you want to share with the lovely people listening in or who might play?
Um, I would just say if anybody's interested in learning more about Daily Bread Food Bank or about more specifically organizing a food drive or fundraiser this season, visit our website at dailybread.ca. Lots of information there. If you want to dig again more specifically into food and fundraisers, dailybread.ca/community champion is where you can find up-to-date information and resources on how to hold a successful food drive and or fundraiser. We've got all of our sort of downloadable tools and resources, customizable flyers, our most needed items list, etc. can all be found there, as well as my contact info and the contact info of my team to connect with you directly and provide you with the support that you need to have a fun time.
Awesome. Well, Sasha, I hate to tell you, but I think the Daily Bread has now found their new live interview volunteer because that was really fantastic. And you shared so much amazing info with us. So I'm very grateful for you taking the time to share that with us today. Everybody check you out. Now, we'll also link to the Daily Bread that everybody multiple platforms and multiple ways.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marian, for your hard work, for your support, and for this invite. It's my pleasure. Glad to be able to share a little bit about Daily Bread with all of you fine folks out there. Thank you for watching and for listening, and hope to speak with you soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you again next week. Bye.